Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. We've got some best bets here for you on Thursday in the NBA. 5 games on the slate tonight, and we've got best bets with some sides and totals in this episode for you. Also have player props up in another episode, and make sure to subscribe to that channel so you can follow along with both these episodes each and every weekday this season. Also want you to head to the email newsletter linked in the description of the video here over on thelines.com. We're sending that out every Friday so you guys can stay up to date on everything we have up on the site, as well as that bonus parlay from myself and Nate, and we're bringing you that each Friday, like I said, behind that newsletter. Make sure you check that out. Not going to be putting those in the videos, but we are 2-0, making a couple of 2.5 units so far on the season. Looking to keep it going this Friday. But let's go ahead and jump right into your first best bet here, Nate. I will say we've been doing much better in the last couple of days on the props, sweeping those, not getting the W's here in the best bet. So let's turn the best bets around here and kick it off with your first look.
Yeah, that's why we're doing a little bit of a props angle here, at least for some of the best bets. But for me, I hit this on an alt on both things for the Pistons. Pistons minus 7.5 and under 238 is what gets you slightly plus money. I mean, you can tweak this however you want. I think you're fine around minus 10. I think you're really safe under 240 for this game because Wizards, I mean, I think the total right now is 235, which is probably safe as well because that Wizards offense is just gonna really struggle here. The only thing that worries you is if Detroit plays at just a blistering pace and we get fast break points going back and forth. But if you remove the 24 fast break points Washington scored on Tuesday when these teams met, they scored 79. It's just like and in general, they're just not scoring on the road. 103 rating, their last 8 road games, only a 97 pace. This is a team that was leading the NBA in pace through the first 2 months, under in 5 of their last 6 road games. You know, and Detroit is just a fantastic defense that's going to be able to limit exactly what they want to do. I mean, particularly down low in the half court, number 1 assist to turnover defense since the All-Star break. The one issue is free throws, and Washington on the season has the lowest free throw rate in the league on the road. The last 5 at home, the pace has actually been down for Detroit from that league leading pace to like 10th. Which is makes you feel a little bit better. They're willing to slow it down, and their defense has just been elite. I mean, 105 rating, allowing 97.8 points per game if you remove the loss to Denver, and they basically otherwise are winning and choking the life out of other teams. The only other time they've gotten to 240 in this stretch is with Utah, and that was because they scored 134. So I guess that's the danger is Washington can give it up. And give it up in bunches, but Washington has been under 240 in 8 of their 10. Again, one of the exceptions is Utah, and both games at home. So I just don't think that there's going to be that kind of freewheeling pace here. Washington's offense is clunky and slower now with those veterans in there and their weird rotation. So give me Detroit to win and this to stay under in some fashion.
Yeah. I mean, there's teams trying, there's teams not trying. I think that's a big part of why we're like able to find props a little bit more easily in March than we are sides and totals. But like this one is pretty easy. There's 2 teams trying. We've got a couple games with 2 teams not trying. So what do you do with that? With reverse competition. But in this one, you're going to be able to see Detroit still going for it. I think we're going to see plenty of backups in this game. They've got OKC in a couple of days. I talked about that in the last game they just played here, where they've got 2 scrimmages against Washington before they get to a game against OKC that I think they'd like as a true litmus test. Like I think they'd like to put Cade out there full minutes, Jalen Duren full minutes, and this is not the game to do that so that they can rest those guys for a couple more. But they're still going to be able to handle it. Like, I just like the backups to try harder than the starters. Like, you're going to get more beef stew out there. You think he's taking plays off because it's the Wizards? No, he's ready to fight everybody. So we're going to get like 25 minutes of him, 25 minutes of Schroeder, and those guys are going to be putting in their work. So let's go to Brooklyn, talking about 2 teams that may not be trying to win. But Brooklyn and Chicago, we got Brooklyn as 2.5-point dogs, and I'll take that against Chicago because once again, Nate, who are you, Chicago, to be favored by 2.5 points over anybody? And there's a little bit of respect deserved for this Nets squad. They do play up to competition and down a little bit, but like they're hanging with the better teams. We just saw them give obviously the Mitchell-less Cavs a fight, but like when you have Cam and you have Russell out there, you have a legit backcourt. Whether they try to play defense or not is another thing. But I don't know that they need to worry about that too much, because on the Bulls side, you got Vooch, who looks like he's playing, but still on a 24 minutes limit. You've got Kobe White playing full minutes, and that's it. Giddey's going to be out. Lonzo's going to be out. So it's the Huerter, Trey Jones, Kobe White show with some Zach Collins and Matas Puzelis out there, and put that roster up against Claxton, Cam J, Cam T, D'Lo. I mean, all these guys like Watford's back, Keon Johnson. This is a team that's been playing together for a bit here. So, like, if you want to talk about like the matchup specifically, neither of these teams are going to rank well on offense or defense right now. It's not the point. It's just these two teams in a vacuum against each other, not how they rank against the other, 20 teams in the league that are still trying. So if you look at like the matchup specifically, Brooklyn, since they've gotten Cam T back and they've had D'Lo in there over the last like 10 to 12 games, this team is pretty good getting into the paint. They're pretty good getting to the rim. They have the fourth highest rim or sixth highest rim frequency. They also have the fourth most 3-point attempts. So they've really kind of backed off of the mid range. It's really just Cam Thomas at this point taking the occasional mid range, but they're above the break and into the at the hoop, and that's how that's where Chicago's terrible. I mean, they're terrible all over the floor, but they're 30th in limiting rim points, and they're currently giving up the fifth most attempts from three in their last 10. Still a very bad defense down in the corners and above the break. So there's still going to be plenty of opportunities against the worst paint defense in the league for a team that is either going to get all the way to the rim or pull up and pull up that those pull up threes as they're doing, because they're still not passing enough to like be considered a high assist percentage. But they're going to have one-on-one matchups that they can exploit all over the floor. So I'm great with them covering 2.5 points and would definitely be hitting the money line for them to win this one.
Yeah, initially I was looking at the Bulls side of this, and it is down to -1.5. It's just like Nets are good covering these big spreads, but do they actually win games? Not too often. But then I see the injury report. They're actually seem like they're going to play everybody, and the Bulls not so much. I mean, yeah, they're going to yank Vooch if he's doing too many productive things. Like they don't have their point guards, their wing defenders. So yeah, I have no beef with that. If the Nets are going to be the ones going for the win here, you just got to try to identify these spots in March as far as who actually wants to win. Golden State hosting Sacramento. And if Domantas Sabonis is ruled out again, I think Golden State -7 is fine. But since I don't know at this point if he's going to be able to return, I'm going to take Jimmy Butler's prop, 11.5 rebounds, assists. No points for me and Jimmy, thank you. And the money line, it gets you +130. I mean, you can take the 5 assists. I would lean on the assists more so than the rebounds here if you are just trying to parlay one stat and not worry about the combo. But he's good for, probably 6 to 8 assists, you would think, the way this game simulates out, because no Podziemski. Kuminga is coming back, but he's only gonna play like 20-ish minutes, maybe like 18 minutes. Like, I don't know how much he'll gum up the works. He'll probably be out there a lot when Jimmy is not. And with no Podziemski, it's really been an offense that's like Jimmy and Draymond facilitating from the elbow to get Steph looks. And Steph's only got 9 for 26 in these last two from deep. But Jimmy's still 15 dimes, 32 potential dimes. He's just, the tracking is almost identical with Draymond in terms of the amount of passes and potentials. And Jimmy's actually getting more touches as more of the offensive threat. The rebounding has gone up a little bit here since he was like clearly taking it slow on the road trip, grabbing 6 of 11.5 chances. He's deferring 3 per game these last two. So if he decides to mix it up a little bit more, rebounds can go up. I mean, he has grabbed plenty though recently. If Domas is out, the Kings are not a good rebounding team particularly. They're also not a good offensive team lately. They're 19th in true shooting in their last 4, and their defense is 4th worst guarding the 3. And they've allowed a lot of rebound chances to non-centers in this span, which could be even more of a factor. If Joval's the starter, I don't know if he can stay out on the floor against the Warriors' pace and space offense, and then the Kings go small, and then it's just easier to grab boards. If you're Jimmy, play bigger. He's gone over this in 3 of 4 home games with the dubs. That includes 1 of 2 blowouts. I mean, he got over this in 19 minutes in a blowout against Charlotte, which was just absolutely laughable. Came up just short against Sac in a blowout, but did have 7 dimes in that game. So that, again, is what I'm leaning on, is just his role as a facilitator, and then hopefully the rebounds bounce his way.
Yeah. I mean, I do like him to have a pretty good game in this one. I don't know how Kuminga is going to impact things, but yeah, as long as you stay away from the points, I think that's where he'll be a lot more involved. Kuminga, not a very good rebounder, never has been. So we'll definitely be seeing Jimmy like still very heavily involved as the sort of second, third-ish facilitator. But yeah, I think the assists are going to be going to him and Draymond these days, and a lot of the boards as well. So this is definitely the matchup for it. I mean, I guess it's like him and Keegan Murray. Give me Jimmy in that matchup all day and twice on Sundays. So yeah, I think that he'll be dominating anybody that they put on, and like he's going to be having a mismatch in one way or the other with whomever is on the court defending him. So he's in a good spot in this one. New Orleans, they're not that bad right now. They haven't been that bad. They just haven't had their team. They're hosting Orlando, and I'm going to go over on a total that's been bet up a little bit, but it's 216.5 now. I do like the Pellies. I wish I knew what was up with Missy. Missy is currently questionable. Pretty important for them as they only have like 9 guys anyway, and he's their starting center. Kelly Olynyk is already out because I think he's been doing too well and he's helping them win too easily. But at the same time, like they're playing Zion full minutes. They just handed it to the Clippers. Like, I guess they're trying. And if they're trying, then I'm going to have them picking up that pace. And I don't really trust Orlando to be able to stop what they want to do. So that's really what it comes down to. Like, don't look at the pace necessarily. That's not going to help you get there. Orlando's still playing at the 6th slowest pace in the league. And the Pellies have bumped it up to like 13th in the league in terms of fastest pace. So they're top half of the league, playing decently fast enough. But, you know, the addition of Bruce Brown has definitely sped things up. He's currently the player speeding them up the most and getting them out into transition. It's a big reason why we've also seen them go over pretty consistently here in their last like 10 games. They're scoring a bunch, right? And their offense in that time frame up to 15th in these last 10. For the Magic as well, they've also been up to about 15th in the last 5, 17th in the last 10. So their offense has at least been like better. Their defense, not better. It's been 119 defensive rating for Orlando over their last 5, 113 over their last 10, which is up from about a 109 D rating on the season for this squad. And then for the Pellies, I don't think I need to tell you how bad they are on defense. They're 30th in the league on the season. They're 30th right now in the last 5 as well. And I mean, where they're going to be giving it up to this team too is going to be in the paint. And that's the other thing about Missy is like, I kind of don't mind him not being out there, but him not being out there was the reason I didn't feel comfortable trying to see if the Pellies could cover at home against this Magic squad. I just left that alone and was like, nah, I mean, Missy in, still think there's going to be a good amount of points scored. Missy out, probably going to be more points scored, and then we'll see a lot more small ball 5 stuff from Zion and from this Pelicans team, which then just means that pace is going to just skyrocket up because they're not going to be able to stop anybody. Like Zion ain't really doing his sort of like float around and try to block shots thing. He's just really taking sort of possessions off on defense, at least from the standpoint of like guarding a nobody in the corner so that he can rest. Not necessarily like he's loafing around, but he doesn't have to go too hard on defense, and they're really not going to have any rim protection at that point. I'm trying to think of like, I guess like Javonte Green's not there. I don't even know who they would put in now. We're getting to the very end of it here.
Carlo Matkovic.
I always forget that he's even on this team. Yep. Mark Matkovic is going to be helping out down there with Zion, I guess. It's a good thing Trey Murphy's really tall for a small forward. Like, they're going to be in trouble down low. And this Magic team, that's all they do, right? They, like, get to the rim with the 9th highest frequency over their last 5. Paint field goal percentage is up for them as well, where they were struggling a bunch with that. Looks like Franz and Paolo back to driving about 15 times per game each, which is both in the top 20 in the league. That's going to be a problem for this team, as well as anything off of the spot up, right? And the assist percentage has been up a bit, although it's still a bit more my turn, your turn for this team. We've seen Paolo spray things out a little bit more with the potentials, getting out into the corners. Cole Anthony been the official starter as well. His potential assists are up a bit. So they're going to be able to move the ball. If they want to get out in transition, they can. I don't think they will. But I just love this over at such a low price, up to like 218.5 or so for how I priced these two teams.
Yeah, I think you're onto something in terms of like both teams don't defend what the other team wants to do, and that Orlando has to score on the interior. All right, and New Orleans pretty good on the perimeter with Zion drive and kick as the focal point. And Orlando actually in the last 7 is the worst 3-point defense in the league by percentage. They do limit the number of attempts, but they're giving up like 42% from 3, which is just crazy. Shows the absence of Suggs as far as organizing them and getting out there on the perimeter. So as long as New Orleans can stay hot, which they have been offensively here in the last few, maybe they force this game to get a little more high scoring.
Yeah, I think so. So that's all the time we have for you, though, in Best Bets. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that channel. Check out the play of props that we have up for you today as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.